Hello and welcome to the Align podcast. I am your host, Anna Goff, and I am here with Molly Rubish, and we are so excited to welcome Max Trombly to our podcast today. You probably recognize him from many social media platforms. He is the calm voice of masculine and feminine energy on the internet. And so we are just so blessed to have him here. Max is a powerhouse life coach and modern thought leader based in New Orleans, Louisiana. He's a devoted husband, father, and leading voice for the reclamation of the healthy and mature masculine. Max has become an unstoppable force in the self-growth space, amassing over 700,000 engaged followers across social media in just 2 years. Very impressive. His work spans individual men, women, and couples within relationships alike, guiding them through transformational coaching rooted in ancient wisdom, therapeutic insight, relational teachings, and radical accountability. Max is committed to helping men and women rise into true maturity, self-empowerment, and the capacity to create deep love, igniting relationships where depth, passion, and purpose become the foundation of the extraordinary lives we all dream of living. And that is an amazing bio, and
Thanks.
hallelujah to that, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
welcome.
It's a bit of a prayer, like the bio as prayer, but that's what I hope for
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I think most of us hope, and sometimes we get to experience it, whether it's a slice of it or a big piece of it. And if we haven't experienced it yet, I think we're all hopeful that we will at some point. So, yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what got you started. What did you go through personally that kind of made your decision to start, helping other
Yeah.
people?
Well, the easiest way I can tell this story is when I look at the totality of my life, sort of before the age of 35. I grew up with a great mom and a good home, and then she got sick when I was young. So around 15, 16, she died. And from this period of like 15 to 35, I was just in like hardship. Like life wasn't working well. I didn't attract the right partners. I didn't know how to build good relationships. I was pursuing a career that was sort of fulfilling and successful enough, but not like thriving in my work. And I got to a point where I just realized like there's something not working. And, the underlying piece that I've talked about on some podcasts is my ex-wife had a really intense mental disorder. And so I was trying to figure out how to work with that and how to support it and hold it. And that opened my mind to this idea that like our mind is a thing to reckon with, and like mental wellness is a thing to reckon with and look at. And so I started to learn how to meditate and how to like find stillness within myself. And then from there, I started to realize that reality is different from how I had been experiencing it before. And that means there's different things I can do in it. Like I can choose to love differently. I can receive love differently. I can create relationships more consciously. Like all this just started to emerge. This is about 13 years ago. And from that point forward, I was committed to learning as much as I could, integrating it into my life and sharing it with men. So I just started meeting with men around a fire. And I did that for a decade, every single month, with just a few months off during the early pandemic. And at some point, I became a coach. People asked me to, help them with their actual lives. And that's now what I do for a living.
It's amazing.
What
I
did
love
those
that.
campfire settings look like initially?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I had no format for it, but I knew a therapist who had done group therapy work. So I called her and I was like, how do you run a group? And I knew a guy who had studied as a monk, and I called him and I was like, how do you hold people spiritually? And between the two of them, I kind of came up with a concept. And basically I invited people to my house. I cooked dinner, and then we sat around a fire and talked about a topic that I would choose. And so it was really casual at first, but by the time I completed sort of a decade of men's circles, the final circles were in a big yoga studio. I had, a circle of cushions, and we were all sitting there. We would do check-ins and, topic, teaching, practice, Q&A, support, feedback. It went from as casual as it could be, like dinner and a fire, to like the most professional men's work kind of experience that I could create. So that's sort of the arc across 10 years. And meanwhile, I filed for divorce. I did this whole dating process and eventually found Kelly, my wife. And, we're 9 years in at this point, and we have 2 kids. And so I'm living kind of that dream life that I wanted, to find my way to, 12 years ago when I initially embarked on this journey.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Do you feel like the men that you were attracting when you first started this campfire? Because I feel like women are really good about community. We have moms groups and, things when our kids are little, and then we're good about connection, and men just tend to not have that. So not in the same way. It's around sports and alcohol typically,
Yeah. Like
or
high school
golf or
friend groups.
whatever. Right, exactly. And so
Totally.
in doing this, like, how have you seen the transformation or I guess the group of men that started coming to you? How is it different now for like the people you're attracting?
That's a really astute question. Just the awareness that would change. Early on, the men were kind of like loose and messy. Like there's no other way to cut it. Like spiritual growth men are kind of like, they're not very contained and they're not very driven. They're more just like, discovering life. And so that's the kind of group that I originally had. And that was also a reflection of me. And so I can own that piece there too. But as I got more like kind of integral in the way that I held my life and more discerning in the way that I chose next right moment, next right action. The looser men, the ones that were still in active addiction or just like perpetually chasing experience, kind of fell off because I don't live that way. And what was replaced was men that were really like, no, how do I change my life experience? Like, how do I really change the nature of my marriage or the way that I'm, fathering my children? So I ran a men's program last year. And when I had the men in a room and I could really feel them, I was like, wow, like these men are like 40 to 60. They have grown kids. Like these are real men, not like, I'm journeying to Peru next week for some whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these are
Bigger
fathers
fan.
that they're driving their kids to high school or like, college for the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
Yes.
talk about, like in your bio, it said the thing that stood out the most was ancient wisdom. So are you returning people back to the deeper knowing and then tapping into like our soul's purpose, or what does that necessarily mean?
Yes,
I love
exactly.
Here we're coming at these questions that people
No,
probably don't
that's
typically ask.
you kind of like the biggest idea in the world. You just nailed it in one sentence. Let me put it this way. We live in a world, in a culture today where there's almost like too many options and too many things to chase. Like you can basically get out of high school and be like, I can do anything. And there's enough safety and security in our society that like you can get away with maybe not working until you're 35 because you live in your parents' basement, or like you can casually date and not be serious about creating a family. Like these are things that people can do these days. That was never an option. And until the 1800s, we were mostly hunkered down on like, get a job, survive, marry, have kids, and like take care of that, like that unit. And so in this modern culture where everything's on the table and it's basically like an ice cream shop with like 500 flavors, how do people choose correctly to create a fulfilling life? Like, what does that actually mean? What does soul's purpose really mean? And, I kind of looked at the field of what's existing currently, and everyone seems to think that they're thriving in their soul's purpose. But what I started to notice is a lot of these people only last like 2 years and then they change everything. And it's like, well, is that real? We live in an Instagram world where everyone's just like, I'm thriving. And it's like, you literally just moved to Bali like a week ago. Like, is that really a sustainable thrive? And what I wanted to know is like, what does it mean to actually build a fulfilling life? And so the only way that I could figure out how to do it is, what if I study fulfillment 2,000 years ago? Or what did to really thrive in life 4,000 years ago look like? And I'm like a student of archaeology. Like I love like learning about ancient history, and I have a whole wall of artifacts from like, the dawn of mankind. And, I really thought about like, as I was holding this axe head that was from 5,000 years ago, like what would that man, like what was his life? And it's basically like, I'm here to take care of her, them, and make sure that we're good. And like at a foundational level, that's like the primary colors of life. And when I started to realize that, it really simplified things because I have a wife and kids. And I had all these friends that were kind of chasing experiences, but I'm looking at my wife and kids going like, no, they need to be like cared for, like in a real serious way. And I look at like, the women in the world that are like, we don't need a man, but I'm like looking at my wife and she's like, no, she needs me and I need her. Like we need to actually do like real life here together. And I was just seeing this distortion between what our culture is talking about or pursuing or thriving as for temporary periods of time and the reality of the human experience. And I'm like, there's a serious truth that most people are missing right now. Like how to hold and sustain relationship truly, how to really raise kids so that they're emotionally healthy and competent. What does it look like to hold my wife through our 70s and 80s? Like no one's even thinking about that. They're just like, what are we doing this year? And so when I started to really look at this idea, like my role is to hold her, to hold them, to really do this life together as a, as like a spiritual practice, it really just changed the way I experience life. I don't really need any of the things that, some of those people I used to hang around with, like do. Like what I'm here to do is make sure my kids are good every day, make sure my wife is good every day, make sure we're thriving. We have a great, passionate love life. Like things are good here in home. And once I kind of pivoted that way, that's when I realized just how much we're missing in our modern culture. Like we're just trying to find things outside of our home to feel good, but actually it's your home where you can really create thrive, you know?
Yeah.
And the human experience comes with suffering. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just the one guarantee that you're going to have. And so if
Yeah.
you have your infrastructure of your family or your soul is at peace with accepting and being able to receive that,
Yeah.
what a beautiful gift.
Totally.
So you said it so beautifully because I think everybody that is listening would say, "Yes, how do I get my husband to the home this way?" And I think there's a disconnect on how we articulate it. So women
Yeah,
are
there
like,
is.
"You don't see me, you don't understand. I've been asking." And they almost get louder or detached or frustrated and and maybe comes out in feels like it's control or disappointment or the woman goes into her masculinity. So how do women do a better job articulating that they just want to be safe with
Yeah.
their man?
Well,
And
that's a really
safety
good
doesn't
question.
mean like beat up the bully in the alley. It means like safe at home. So, how do we help our listeners articulate that missing piece in their home?
The first thing just around emotional safety is articulating it through the lens of, for me, safety is being understood in my experience. Like any
Hmm.
woman that can explain that in that sentence structure should start to unlock that it's not about his reality or the facts of the moment, like what just actually happened, according to him. It's more like she's having an experience and him understanding that experience is where safety will come from. That's the
Hmm.
first piece. But the bigger and more important piece is that when women truly own that they need their men, like if you look at your husband and you say, look, I need you and I need you to understand this for the sake of us and like our future, rather than you're not getting it right. You're not doing what I need. I hate this. I can't stand you. You know, I need you. If you can get into that posture as a woman, like that is an evocation or an invitation of his capacity. I need
Yeah.
you, you know, like that's a real request versus like, I hate you and you're wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
everything acting as a criticism, which I feel like a lot of times in relationships, when a woman brings something up, a man views it as I'm not doing it right, not an invitation to have a conversation about how can we make this better. So do you find that people are more receptive of going through this hard stuff and having these hard conversations with second marriages than they are with first? Because I know Molly and I have this dream of helping couples before their first marriage to understand, like, what things you're going to go through and what it's going to be like when you're 80 and how do you deal with finances and how do you deal with all the hard things in a relationship. However, everyone in going into their first marriage thinks I will never be the one that gets divorced. I will never have the hard time. So how can we help people not only for their first marriage, but going into a second marriage very intentionally, about building on these things. So it's not a conversation that has to come down the line after, as a repair or something.
Most people have not considered that there's a different way to do life than what we were taught and programmed by our parents. Like that's kind of the beginning of consciousness, which is like, I can do things differently and I can see things through a different lens. So what I would say is that whoever kind of awakens first in a relationship or whoever is a human being that has more depth of understanding in relationship, like bringing that as a concept into your relationship is really important. Like there are ways to do relationships that I don't think either one of us even know because like, both of our parents wouldn't have known this. That's kind of an easy way to open this idea. Now, I think, for any individual that wants to approach creating a deeper experience of relationship, you have to do you first. Like I have to know what my love languages are. I have to know what my sensitivities are. I have to know what where my triggers and wounds are so I can start taking responsibility for them. Not only inviting her to love me the way I need to be loved, but also like owning my own emotional wellness, right? When any individual becomes sort of more emotionally well in relationship, it's also emotionally sovereign, which means you kind of stop being in the drama cycles that we create in relationship because you can be like, hold on, we're not going to do this again. Like I love you too much to do this cycle again. When you can stop that habit of the unconscious previous way, that's where everything really changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really does start with like, do you first, I do me first, like handle your own wellness first so that you can kind of pause your own way of perpetuating the habits that you've lived as, forever. And
Yeah.
then when these things are kicking up, being like, hold on, like, let's try something different. And then you have to kind of deal with like how long it takes for the partner to catch up to that idea and the possibility of it. So if you can get support, that can happen a lot faster. And when it comes to men, that's one of the things I've really tried to master is like, how do I help men understand as quickly as possible that there's a different way? Because I don't want to like be in the muck and the drama of a man being like, but it's like, she's having a different experience and like the facts are the facts. Like, go away with that. Like, let's be actually
Yeah.
real. Like, you're two individuals having a completely different experience. Let's understand each other.
Right.
And, so the way I teach men, I can really kind of break through the confusion and I guess the chaos of it and just be like, here's what women need from us. And if you can nail this, you're going to have the best life in the world. Like, literally, that's how I teach it, which is a pretty inspiring take.
Do you get, I mean, obviously you've got your followers on Instagram and it's resonating. Are you getting pushback from men that think, clearly
Sure.
I get pushback all day long.
We get pushback.
from men.
We're used to that.
But as a man that's speaking about kind of doing life a different way, are you getting pushback to still maybe that more closed off or that different soul level or, somebody that's not interested in hearing it? Do you get a lot of criticism?
Yeah. I mean, I have like 700,000 followers online. So like every time I put out a video, someone's got something to say. But I mean, the majority of people are really supportive and, really get what I'm out here doing. But like, I'm always going to have some random person that doesn't follow me. Like they hear what they think they're hearing from my content. And they're going to be like, this is bullshit. Like, why is it always on the man? And I'm just like, whatever.
Right.
I don't respond to it.
Yeah.
If it's particularly vicious, I just block people because it's just like, look, this is not like a freedom of speech place. Like my comments are part of my, you know what I mean? So I protect it well. And I also protect people that are in it. So if people are fighting in my comments, like I'll just get rid of the people that just like, I don't know where that came from, but you're out.
Right. Yeah. I do the same thing.
Yeah. You're kind of standing in a town square, just being like, here's my thoughts. And like, you're going to have people that come in that throw tomatoes and you just got to be like, whoa, like, see ya.
Yeah.
Well, and it's less about even fine social media. Of course, there's going to be haters. It's more about reflecting, or it's an example of the pool that we're dealing with. So if that is an indicator of then women and men going into the dating world, you're in the beginning, you got the endorphins going, you've got the oxytocin, you've got good passion, and you're dating. And then all of a sudden you start seeing that there's all the dichotomy of belief systems. And then we're entering into marriages. And then everybody wants to know why marriages aren't working and why we should just stick it out. You should just try harder, do more, try harder. But we're actually speaking very, very different languages. And so it'd be interesting, like your mission has to be actually way, way bigger than even 700,000 to hit the billions of people entering into relationship.
Yeah. So that's the exact moment you were just talking about. When I was dating, I was shocked how many women were not available for a real relationship. I dated like 17 women before I met my wife, and that's not that many. Across a year, it was like 1 or 2 dates a month. A few of them I went on like a couple dates with. But like 17 of them were just like, no, they're not oriented in their mid-30s toward real relationship. Like they're like, I'm finding myself, or I don't know where I'm going to live. And it's like, I was looking for the mother of my children. So when my wife popped up, I was like, what are you looking for in a relationship? And she was like, I'm looking for someone to build a really beautiful relationship with. And I was like, boom. You're my lady. Like I chose her that day because she was serious about relationship, that's like the real gold. Finding a person that's like, I want to be in love. I want to be married. I want to be in a relationship. If you can find someone that says that, then you actually that's a good starting point because most people are not that.
Right.
So
when you're dating later, and have previous partners or children or other things in the mix, I think sometimes people are more standoffish about inviting someone into their world because it's different when it's two single people and you're like, okay, even if you've been married before, deciding when to bring someone into your world. And then also the red flags. So, typically we're on our best behavior. But what I have found in dating after divorce and dating other people who have been divorced is people tend to lay it all out on the line. And like, this is who I am. This is what I want. So when people show you some things that might be red flags, like how do you know whether to work through them or whether to turn and run the other way?
Yeah, I was, when I was dating, I was pretty good at no. Like I was just like, no, not my person. That's okay. Have a nice day. I don't need many red flags. In fact, I had committed to pretty much like 0 red flags. And my ex-wife, like the situation that happened in my first marriage was incredibly difficult. And I was just like, I need to get this right completely. Like, I'm not willing to even have slightly wrong in my next relationship. I don't know how else to explain it. I need to find someone that's mentally healthy, that has happiness as a core way of being, and that has vitality and the capacity for energy and wants to be a really great mother. Like, that's like literally what I was looking for. And even if you have older kids, like you want someone that's like, if you have kids, don't date people that don't have kids. That's like number 1 rule. because
Right.
once you have kids, you understand that there's more to life than yourself. And so if you have kids, you're in that orientation. And if you date someone that doesn't, like they just don't understand what that is. And so there's an imbalance of like depth,
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah,
would be the
I
first
found
one.
that.
Vitality, happiness, the capacity
Yeah.
to understand relationships. Like those are the massive green lights.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
like the thought of wanting to be in relationship. And so if you put that first, like I want to be in relationship. I love love. I
exactly.
love love.
Exactly.
And I want to be married to my husband. And fortunately, we have a good marriage, but because we pour into and prioritize each other versus like, you made me mad or you didn't do this today. Or, of course, those things could happen or we get annoyed because we're human. But at the core of it is deep love and partnership where we actually care about one another. And if we hurt one another, we want that repair and we want to grow. And I think that's the difference of when you get married. Like I met my first husband when I was 24. I grew up in the Midwest. I went to high school. I went to college. I got my degree. My friends were getting married. It was time to get married. I needed to get married so then I could have kids, so then I could do my thing. And I never stopped. And this is no fault of either one of us, except for I didn't know that there was a different way, to your point, to do life. And I didn't know that I was allowed to go, whoa, what is relationship? What is marriage? What is partnership? More than just, oh, you guys live together and play house and have kids. I didn't even know what I didn't know.
That's exactly it. We don't know what we don't know,
And so
Yeah.
we
But
have to be more forgiving for people who have marriages that end in divorce because nobody chose to get divorced. We didn't get none of the three of us got married the first time with hopes that that marriage would end in divorce. But we also were young people marrying a young person, regardless of age, right? Young emotionally even. And
we
it's
do our
almost
best
like
to
the
choose
beauty.
through the frame of life that we have when we're young. And that's a very different frame than we have when we're older, Like when I was 18 thinking about my life, I was thinking about it from a completely different frame. What car I chose, what I was going to do with my time. Like I wouldn't choose
Right.
any of those things today.
Right.
And yet
Right.
here we are getting into relationships, tying a knot, having kids. And it's like, sometimes here's the thing, not everybody has to divorce. The divorce rate's like 48, 50% or
Yeah.
something like that. So like there are some people that chose well enough that they can make it work. And I live in a
Mhm.
part of the world where there's a lot of kind of long-term multi-generational family systems. So I see what
Mhm.
functioning marriages look like, across 30 years, 40 years, the first marriage is working. But then there's this other group, which I guess we're a part of, where we maybe chose a misaligned truth, without seeing it at the beginning. And so then we become aware of that and let's just have grace and recognize that's okay. Like I filed for divorce and then I started over and then I chose right.
Yeah.
And now I'm building the
Yeah.
life I'm here to build,
Yeah.
you know?
Which is so beautiful. And
Yeah.
and I do think, I was married for 18 years. So it was a long time. And as you go through life and life stressors and you don't know how you're going to handle certain situations and how one person may evolve differently than another person. And I love, the concept of really deciding what you want for your relationship and committing to that and growing together and being very honest about what you need and looking at it as like, because I'm telling you this is a need, it's not a criticism of your ability to fulfill that or for me to be able to fulfill that, but this is what I need in my life.
So your first marriage was 18 years. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Molly? How long?
11.
Okay. So when I was dating, one of the bigger green flags was the capacity for sustained relationship. So I was a
Mhm.
basic no to anybody at 35 that did not have at least a 6-year relationship. And
Yeah.
when I found my wife, ideally what I was looking for was someone who was either like a widow or had filed
Mhm.
for divorce and even potentially had a kid.
Yeah.
Because I was looking for someone that I'm not here to like play around. Like I want a serious response. Like, what are you looking for in life? When I met my
Yeah.
wife, it was the exact same situation that I had just been through. Like her ex had a mental thing. My ex had a mental thing. So we both kind of filed for divorce and we were like, I want a real relationship. And the
Mhm.
irony is that she had heard about men's work. And so we're in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I was running a men's circle in New Orleans. She literally looked up New Orleans men's work, but like I wasn't on the internet yet. I was only on text based.
Yeah.
And so we were like searching for each other a year and a half before either of us really came into the dating space.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
That's
amazing. I think the thing that I was really trying to point to is that for both of you, like if you were dating today, you would need to find men that had been in like a 10-year and sustained it,
yeah.
versus these
Absolutely.
like I met a woman at 35. She was like her longest relationship was 3 months. And I was like, cool, we are definitely not aligned
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I was engaged to somebody that I had known for 35 years. We grew up together, and he didn't have kids and had never been married. He was 47. And it didn't work because of those things, because my capacity was different than his, because of the way that, I dated and lived with my ex, and we got married and had a baby and moved across the country. And so like the capacity grew over time, over 17 years, 18 years of marriage. And when you're dating somebody that doesn't have that, it's not
It's a
going
different
to
frequency of
align.
life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's no
absolutely.
shame for those people. It's just that
No.
for people that are, if you've had a 10-year relationship and you're looking for a real relationship, you just have to know what the field of play really looks like. And it's like people that have been in long term,
Yeah.
And I'm just actually
Absolutely.
putting that in the pot for your listeners, and anyone that's kind of walking this walk is like, save yourself the headache of dating people that don't have the experience that you would need to feel safe across time.
I think that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I do think that there is a little appeal, like we blended a family. So I could see where there'd be some attraction to, oh, this person doesn't have any children, and then you don't have to have the step parenting and the ex-wife code family dynamic. So it's interesting to see where there could be benefit to both, but the bigger key factor is maybe they were married for a long time and they just didn't have children, or they have the
That's totally,
capacity to
yeah.
hold the long-term relationship.
Well, and that's another reason I wanted to put this in the pot, because it's not just whether they have kids or not. It's also, it's like, do they have depth of potential in relationship, And I hear exactly what you're saying. So like if you have kids and you've divorced and you're kind of co-parenting there and you want to bring someone in, like, yeah, like there are different ways we can arrange that. I'm not just trying to like take half this group of people and be like, you're not valuable.
You're done.
But at the same time, when you're dating, you should have such a degree of discernship that you're willing to say no to like 99% of people so you can find the one that really works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when that's great. And when people show you who they are, believe them, right?
Yeah, believe it. Yeah, exactly. And be willing to actually own the judgment that you know is true. That's the thing.
Right.
Everyone's all like non-judgmental, but like when someone tells you like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, actually that means a lot. And I don't need that in my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Versus my wife. When I met my wife, my son was 3. So she had a son. She came to me and she was just like, yeah, I'm looking for the father of my son and like, someone that can really build a family together. And I was like, that is exactly what I'm here for. Versus, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to live here for the next 6 months, like, which is kind of like the woman I had dated right before my wife. So contrast was intense. Yeah.
So when you're going into a relationship, so I talk a lot about financial security and safety and having that dynamic. I am often accused of being very untraditional, but I'm very traditional. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. I loved that. That was something that I loved, pouring into my husband and my family and his career and being that support person. And that was really great. It ended up burning me in the divorce. So how can women and men have these conversations about not only safety within the marriage, but also having that autonomy to be able to say, okay, I want to be there for you. I want to pour into you. I want you to hold the family and hold me. But I also need to protect if you become an alcoholic or find love elsewhere and I've devoted my whole life to you. So how can we have those conversations without being accusatory or without feeling like it's the end, like you're planning for the end, but just helping both people understand like we need safety and security within a relationship, especially if one person's stepping out of the workforce?
Yeah. So I was talking to somebody recently about this, and you don't have to decide everything when you begin dating somebody.
Right.
Let's say you're a couple months into dating somebody. You can say like, I'm loving this relationship. I want you to be my boyfriend. Like, I want you to be my girlfriend. Like, can we like be more serious about this? Like, get into serious first. And then when the conversation comes up around finances, what I often say is, let's decide at year 4 or let's decide at year 3, like what we actually want to do financially and how we work together in the financial space. For the first couple of years, let's really focus on building the emotional congruence of this relationship and sort of how we relate. And once we're in a certain space, let's kind of renegotiate, like, what are our true commitments? And you could do that around the time of like marriage, if you remarry, or, I married my wife like 18 months after I met her. So it wasn't, she had a 3-year-old and we wanted to have more kids. So we were like, let's get this going. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is you can make decisions 4 years in, and you can decide at the beginning that that's what you're going to do. And so you just kind of go like, okay, 4 years in, we're going to take a trip and we're going to make some bigger decisions around how we orient our lives and our financial security across time. But before that, let's actually just focus on relationship and building love. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that's so smart. And I always say, like, there is the contract of marriage, whether you have a prenup or not. And it should be an ongoing conversation.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout your relationship, as things change, as you buy homes, buy businesses, sell businesses, accumulate
100%.
wealth, someone stays home, and I think oftentimes we avoid those conversations because we think they're planning for the end, but really it just makes it crystal clear in everybody's mind. It's a huge part of the communication within a relationship that should
100%.
happen. And if you have a baseline, document to go off of, and it should be a working document throughout your marriage.
It should be, yeah. And also there's this thing where people put too much meaning on the idea of prenup or no prenup when marrying. And like, actually, can we just chill and have that conversation in 3 years? And like, we'll decide to do that. We can calendar it now. We can even go and do a trip and like renegotiate our agreements, like whatever. I just think as human beings that have varying life experiences in empowered states are very diverse when we get to our 30s and 40s. We just have to be willing to be flexible and not just like, no, it's got to be this way. Like we're all in, it's all the same pot or not. And we're protected separate. Like let's kind of get off that shallow kind of perspective of looking at it.
Right. I agree. And so much money and security are tied together so much for
100%
people.
Yeah, it was safety and fun. I don't understand why no one talks about this. So women want to feel safe. They want to feel emotionally safe in a relationship. They want to feel safe in the world. Like that's just normal and it makes complete sense. Long-term financial planning is massive when it comes to safety. Like if you don't know if you're going to be okay in 5 years, especially when we get to our 40s and 50s, like we start to really like lose it. Like I don't feel safe. We don't have a retirement. We don't know what we're doing.
Shit.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah. And like literally the worst case scenario for a woman is like perimenopause and menopause. You don't have financial security. He's emotionally vacant. Like that's like hell on earth.
Yeah.
And so emotional safety and long-term financial planning are crucial to hold a woman across time. It doesn't mean a man has to hold it all. Like you guys can have an agreement or a way that you do life where you're both making money and creating, but like it has to be conscious and capable.
Right.
So money, emotional safety and financial safety probably sums up 100% of the women that are coming to me saying, I don't know where to turn and I want a divorce, because they are saying over and over again that they want a different outcome. And we talked about it earlier, but they can't articulate what emotional safety feels like or what it looks like, or the man is unable to receive that because they can't. They're like, tell me what to do. It's not like unload the dishwasher.
The thing is, women can't tell men what to do because women only know it from the feminine perspective. And if they tell them what to do, then like they're actually not going to be fulfilled in what the man's doing,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like men have to learn a different way of doing what the woman is actually asking for. And that's what I do. I teach men how to do that so that they can actually have congruent, emotionally viable relationships,
So talk about that. So if somebody's listening and they're like, I'm going to send this to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Like what's the journey for the man if they come to you, and what does that look like? How do you teach them that?
Okay. 3 stages. Stage 1. The first thing a man needs to do is become emotionally sovereign and stop being reactive, defensive, or vacant emotionally with her. So what that looks like is actually understanding your emotional self. And most men don't even know what that means. Even if they're hyper stressed and in their emotions of stress all the time, I have men that are like, I don't know what my emotions are. I can't feel my emotions. It's like, bro, you're like seething as stress. Or like anger issues. They have anger issues and they're like, I'm not emotional. It's like, where's the disconnect here? So what I first do is I help men really come into the emotional body, which is a beautiful thing, like happiness, joy, play, sadness. These are all beautiful emotions, and they're actually like a really important part of the human experience. And then there's like rage and anger and stress, and those are difficult emotions. But like being able to register those and regulate them and self kind of soothe when you're having that experience is the first stage of masculine sovereignty. The second stage is teaching just relational dynamics. And so how do you actually work with a woman who's enraged, upset, resentful, confused, angry, like whatever, like how do you work with that? And so working with that in an effective way where you go like, okay, look, I want to hear you. Like, let's actually get into a conversation. And then you go like, that makes sense. Like, I understand how you feel. I understand how I impacted you in that way. Like, I understand how we can do this differently. Let's try. Like, to be more competent in how we resolve conflicts is a game changer. As soon as you start getting competent in that, instead of feeling like you guys are fighting each other all the time, you're feeling like, okay, like we can get better at this, which brings in faith and hope in the relationship. And so when a woman can believe that there's change happening in relationship, it's like the whole resentment cycle stops. Trust starts to build. And then after that, it's just the real positive aspects of relationship. Like, how do you flirt with her? How do you light her up? How do you touch her body? How do you get her like, fuck yes, life is good, both physically, spiritually, and also just like experientially. So, are you doing things with your wife that have her feel like, fuck, I love this life with you? I just took my wife and kids to Portugal, and like my wife was just like, I cannot believe this. That was not a possibility in her life a decade ago, and neither was it in mine. And so it's like, how do we create a life where emotionally competent, sexually viable and vital, and just a fuck yes experience? Like, that's what I create with my wife, and we're in it, and it's awesome. And when men hear that, they go, okay, how do I do it? And I just outlined it for you guys.
Yeah.
Well, and it's perfect because men often want to flirt or grab, or, they want to have intimacy, but they're missing the first two things. And women are like, I have so much resentment towards you. Don't touch me.
Yeah,
Don't
touch
rub
me.
my back. I mean, and they're like, when he puts his arm around me, I like actually retreat. I do not. I'm so resentful. I'm like not receptive to that. And so then they double down, and she has so much resentment. I had a client send me a message last night, and she's very close to filing for divorce, and she's continued to tell him. He texted her and said, can I ask you for a favor? And she said, sure, what's up? He said, can you wear that black shirt because your boobs look fantastic in it? And she's like,
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? And I don't know if that's his attempt to flirt with her or compliment her. I have no idea. Like,
she's going to go burn that shirt.
But what you said, I know. I really get that. But like he's just trying to bring energy the only way he knows it. And she's got the resentment and the like wall. Yeah. And like, you have to actually deal with the resentment in the wall first. And the wall is just a lack of trust, a lack of safety,
Yeah.
So anyway, I really get that.
Yeah. I hear that so much
so good
from women. Yeah. From women about like once they get divorced and they're like, I didn't think I liked sex. I didn't think I liked flirting. I didn't think I liked making out and all this. But when it's not their husband anymore and there's not that resentment, then they're like, oh,
it's amazing.
I do. Yeah. Like I
can actually enjoy sex. I can actually be present in the moment. I can actually enjoy this person and the experience, even if it only lasted like a month or two. The reawakening is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I went through.
We're hardwired for love. We want it.
Yeah.
We want it.
Want
we're not trying to like push it away.
Totally. And sex and intimacy are a need. It's not like a bonus. It's not like a thing that we get to like. It's actually a need. And I think we forget that, or we make excuses as to how it's not a need.
You have to feel like you want it, and like it's not a chore to check off the list, and it can. And the more connected you are, and the more emotionally connected you are, the more she'll want it.
That's exactly right. And that's the key to why I learned all this. Like years ago, I was like, I want to create a forever vital relationship that feels happy, alive, and the sex is good. Like that's literally the primary three things I wanted in a relationship. And I was like, so what does that mean? Like, what do I need to build in my relationship to ensure that happens? Because I mean, I can flirt with my wife for the rest of our days, but there's other pieces that if they're missing, like it's not going to work. And so this is why I developed all this, like essentially so that I could have the best relationship I could create for the rest of my life. And as I realized it, I was like, wow, fuck, men would love to know this information. Like this is really the missing piece for men.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love that. It makes absolute sense. And I think that, if you can have a partner that you get to choose every single day, that you're madly in love with, that you're passionate about, that you're connected to, that you trust, like, and you have amazing sex and want that, like,
like what else is there to
life?
life?
That's what we all want, right?
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing better. And then you don't have to go out and find somebody else. And you're like, man, I'm married to the hottest guy. We want to just,
I don't want to date. I don't want to try to find things I don't have. I don't want to spend my life feeling like I'm unfulfilled. I just want to be like, cool, my life is good. My wife is amazing and it's hot as fuck. Like that's my life. Yeah. And like you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and to feel like loved and seen sitting next to your partner. I mean, just to go to bed at night and know, and that's the beauty of having two different marriages is one, I can really, really, really appreciate the depths of my marriage now because of how different I felt in my first. And some of that is on me. I will not sit here ever and blame it all on
Well, the only way
him.
It's going to work now is when you take responsibility for your side of
Correct.
it. So of course.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's amazing.
That is an amazing place to stop. And
Sure.
now that we're all like fired up about going out and finding this and building this, I'm so excited that you were on, and I know that what you're teaching men is resonating, and women are thanking you everywhere. And
Yeah. Thank you.
so tell us where people can find you and follow you.
Well, my name is Max Trombly, so you can find me online pretty easily if you just search for that. My company is ashiftinbeing.com, and that's where you can find access to my programs or my different things. I run a men's program once a year from January to June, and that's kind of my primary education tool for men. And it includes emotional integrity and then, building really effective relationships. It's also the interesting thing about my men's work is that even though I framed it through creating better relationships, for most men, it's really just finding themselves again. It's like learning who they really are, like learning what is inside their kind of operating system of life, and then coming into an empowered self state first. So really the cool thing about my program is that it's not just about the wives, even though it dramatically affects the relationships. It's really about these men. And so at some point, I'll run, stuff for teenage boys, and I'll run things for elders as well. But right now I've got The Way of Man, which is my program from January to June. And yeah, ashiftinbeing.com is where you can find me, or Instagram.
We have all the links and we will provide them in the show notes. So, Max, thank you so much. On behalf of both Anna and I, we deeply appreciate your time. And for our listeners, I'm sure they're going to appreciate this, but mostly thanks for doing the work in the world to try to change the shift and elevate us as humans to have better relationships, because all of us will have better human experiences if we learn how to love one another better.
Yeah, more kindly, starting with ourselves. Yeah, thanks.
Right?
I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.